Welcome to the Wheel Summit 2018. To our speakers and our guests, can I say thank you so much for coming today, for your time and the insights that you'll be sharing with us during the day and indeed tomorrow. I'd like to thank our partners, Saracen, as well as Energia, Doggett Group, the Irish Research Council and Innovare for making Summit 2018 possible. That's really important. We really value your support. Thanks too to the exhibitors in the ever-increasing numbers coming back. And I think that you really will gain insights in talking to them. And there's prizes in a treasure hunt too, and that's running throughout the day. So it's fantastic to be here to talk with you today over the formal proceedings and indeed tomorrow, but also over the networking, as Mancon says, and to hear about the great things that you're doing. So this is our 18th year, as Mancon says, of hosting this annual gathering of the sector, when we come together to discuss how we can make a better society, a more fair and just one, how we can work together to make that happen, how we can make a bigger difference to the people we serve in our communities, in Ireland, or indeed across the globe, how we address their concerns and how we can help them to join in the activities that make them simply happier and healthier. It's our fundamental belief in the Wheel that charities and voluntary action bring people together. We're a force for collaboration and shared action and problem solving. And it's that aspect of who we are and what we are that I want to focus on in my address this year. As Mancon says, we gather here at a time of great opportunity. It's also a time of threat, in one sense, when was it ever not, for the people of Ireland and indeed the world. But consequently, it is also for a period of opportunity and indeed threat for charities, community, voluntary organisations, social enterprises and wider civil society. At a global level, we have, I guess, an ever-increasing impact on Ireland. We have the world facing profound ecological challenges of climate change and everything that entails. We have the rise of the extreme in politics, the erosion of democratic freedoms in many countries of the world, including in the EU, mass migration, increasing inequalities, and a return to protectionist economic policies. Here in Ireland, we see a housing crisis, the impact of poverty and inequality, and a healthcare system which just seems incapable of being appropriately accountable to citizens. We also see the breakdown of traditional community causing isolation and loneliness. And addressing these societal challenges requires cooperation and collaboration amongst all of us in society and indeed across the generations and across the sectors. But actually at the very time that we need to draw on the reserves of trust that makes that kind of cooperation and collaboration possible, we actually find ourselves also facing the additional challenge of the collapse of trust in our institutional, associational and political life. And this itself is actually threatening our ability to respond. It also strengthens actually the polarizing, destructive forces in a deteriorating, vicious circle. So never has the leadership which charities, community groups, indeed wider civil society embodied for a progressive future for humanity, never has that been more needed to realise the potential that Mancon has laid out. And actually, in case there's any doubt, guys, that's us here in the room, you know, the leaders of charities and community and voluntary organisations and social enterprises. It's us and our organisations and our sector outside. Never has that leadership been more required to lead from the front to the extent that it is now, to restore trust and confidence in our society. And as I said, I believe that our sector at its best is a force for collaboration and for shared action and problem solving. Summit 2018 today and tomorrow will be engaging with how we can rise to this leadership challenge. And we're doing it by focusing on three grand challenges or three grand themes for Ireland. Firstly, as a society, we're just going to have to somehow grapple with the damage that the way we run our economy is doing to our society, to our environment, indeed to the long-term future of the economy itself. We need to figure out how to remove the incentives in our economic system that are increasing greenhouse gases, pollutants, and more importantly, exploitative behaviours that are actually destroying the world around us, in Ireland included. In this regard, we in the Wheel are now fully committed to raising awareness of the Sustainable Development Goals across the sector and their potentially transformative powers to reshape our collective future in communities in Ireland, in Europe and across the world. And in that respect, we have a breakout session later this morning about what that might mean. And as Mancon has said, it also led us to our new initiative, Spark Change. The challenge element will be launched later today. Its purpose is to support, encourage and incentivise communities to deliver solutions to the challenges they face through charitable action and community action that is sustainable. Secondly, we simply just have to deal with the inequalities that our economic model is causing, dividing people in our societies, undermining social solidarity and driving an increasing polarisation in public and political life. Again, charities, community groups, and up to including the wider civil society, we hold the key, or indeed much of the key, if one can split a key into numerous individual parts. And I would argue, actually, that we, charities, really have a responsibility to step up in the face of political failure. In tomorrow's sessions, we mark the publication of 3 important reports on participation in Ireland Today, the result of a joint project with the Carnegie UK Trust. And one of them, called Money Matters, focuses specifically on economic matters. And in this regard, charities have a key role to play in actually showing an alternative model. Communities of people coming together to support one another, not because there's a profit in it, but because it's the right thing to do and because we want to. And yes, I know, this sounds like motherhood and apple pie, but we have to figure out how to show this impact and this possibility and this vision to take advantage of the possibilities that Mancon has laid out. Our communities and our country actually need us in our sector to show how our approach to structuring human affairs is the really only long-term future for societies, to ensure that people have what they need in communities that they feel that they belong to. Thirdly, we have to do all we can for our part in restoring trust in institutional, associational and indeed political life too, and to challenge the cynicism that destroys trust. And this is the same cynicism that looks at our sector and says things like, oh, you charities, you're just another vested interest. Or, you charities, you're just the same as the rest of them, you can't be trusted. But yet again, charities, and indeed the wider civil society, we have a leadership role and a responsibility to lead from the front. We can lead, we can demand, and most importantly, we can model in our own practice a radical process of, reconnecting what it is that we do, our public benefit work, our public services, and indeed our public life in terms of engaging with citizens, to the people and communities that we're supposed to serve. We call this in the Wheel sort of downwards and outwards accountability to the people and communities we serve. And this is a different kind of accountability to the upwards accountability that often takes the form of compliance lists and check boxes looking to keep the funders and the system and indeed the regulators happy and satisfied. Both types of accountability are incredibly important, but not one over the other. But only by getting our house in order can we hope to assert leadership in turning the increasingly unresponsive bureaucracies of modern life on their heads. In the Wheel, we made a submission to the Harris Review, which is examining the role of charitable organisations in the provision of social services and health services. And we made this point. We said, we actually as a society need to free up and empower our charities and community and voluntary sector to just get on and do what it is we do best, to reconnect with the people we serve in new and innovative ways, to involve them in service design and delivery. Technology has increased the scale and pace of what it is that we can achieve as individuals and organisations, and it certainly makes life easier. But we do risk losing something important. We actually need as a society to understand that people and human relationships need to be put back at the centre of what it is that we do. We need practices and habits of bringing people together, and I believe that our sector, we can show this and model this better than anybody. We have a vision of what the good society looks like, and we shouldn't be afraid to speak up about it. So everything that I've said positions our sector as a, not the, but a problem solver in one sense in society. And that's what we will be exploring in all of the sessions, in all of the 2 days. And And I guess for now, coming back, into the sector, I will say that, we too need to challenge ourselves and sometimes change ourselves if we're going to be central to solving the problems that society faces and doing our public benefit work. We have to ensure that we apply the highest standards of openness, transparency, and accountability in our practice. And we need to know that we're doing that. And we need to show that we're doing that. And let us also ask ourselves how we can continue to remain closer to the communities we support and serve, rather than the big bureaucracies. So, yes, of course, getting policies and procedures in place is important. Getting culture and leadership right is even more important. Culture comes from the top. So for all the leaders in this room and beyond, we must set the standards that we expect of others in relation to how we work and how we protect our staff, volunteers, and beneficiaries. And that's not because, in the age of scrutiny, we're going to be found out. And it's not because the public rightly has higher expectations of us than the public or private sectors. It's because it's the right thing to do. If we want to be part of the solution to the challenges that I've described, we have to demonstrate effective moral leadership. We have to recognise it, we have to nurture it, we have to promote it, particularly in how we teach the next generation of leaders in our sector. We must support the vast majority of leaders and charities that are doing the right thing and embracing this new scrutiny. These are the charities that are not just transparent, but also accountable to the public, downwards, and to the funders, upwards. Even if that means we have to tell more and hear more about the things that may have gone wrong in our organisations. We must also accept that supporting moral leadership in charities and voluntary organisations includes supporting those who challenge from within, whether they're paid staff, charity trustees, or volunteers. It's more important than ever that we listen to all of those voices, even when the messages are difficult. I think we can also do more in our organisations to champion volunteering in charities. We can do more to help people understand how we work, and we can do more to make the case that a vibrant and engaged sector is the best way to strengthen Irish society. I know, you know, we all know that people want to get involved, people want to do good things, they want to make a difference. But does the way we run our organisations sometimes gets in the way, maybe? These are the questions that we need to ask ourselves. We need to show that we can then help people and ourselves to make a bigger difference. Ultimately, we need a stronger sector that's confident in speaking up and is independent from government and business. Yes, we have challenges, but we continue to deliver, we continue to make a difference, and we continue to be worthy of the public's support and trust. Our sector and the leaders within it come from a place of values, a place where people look out for and care for each other, not because of what we can get out of each other, but because of our common humanity. These values are perhaps old-fashioned values. They're the values of care, compassion, love, and of not passing by. I guess the old Good Samaritan values. The response to the floods and the snow in recent months, as if we needed any more examples, showed how responsive communities can be, how people will always come together in times of need. So, a gathering like Summit 2018 is an opportunity to look ahead at what the sector is looking at. We very much welcome the acceptance by the Charities Regulator to implement the recommendation made in the report from the Consultative Panel on Governance to promote an initiative to coordinate and streamline the multiple reports charities have to file with various state bodies, including the Companies Registration Office, the regulator himself, and I know John is here, the lobbying regulator, and for many charities also the HSE, TUSLA and HIQA. And I haven't even mentioned GDPR and many other things. But charities welcome regulation and oversight, let me be really clear. But we can't afford valuable public resources on some unnecessary form filling and duplication. And those of us who fundraise know that it is practically impossible case to make to ask for more money and to demonstrate your overheads in terms of your compliance overheads increasing at the same time. It's a very difficult sell. So we call on this initiative to commence promptly. Additionally, and I note Barbara Nikenkas is here, the Assistant Secretary with the Department of Rural and Community Development. You're very welcome. We welcome the commitment in the current programme for government to develop a strategy for the community and voluntary sector, including charities and social enterprises. Processes are well underway in the department, but we need to see that overarching strategy for the sector support and development progressed and implemented as a matter of urgency and the right framework for the development of the sector. And the think tank at the lunch session will explore these issues and other procedures. And as I said, we'll be hearing from Barbara, who will share from her perspective what some of these mean for the community and voluntary sector. So the wheel will help to build a consensus on where we go from here. It's a fundamental tenet of ours that we can unite around what we have in common rather than focus on the differences that such a diverse sector inevitably displays. And in that regard, I'm really pleased to, at the recent collaborative partnership that Charities Institute Ireland and the Wheel have commenced in relation to the implementation of the VAT refund scheme. And Lucy is here, CEO of Charities Institute, and you're really welcome, and I really look forward to working with you and with the organisation for the benefit of the sector. So that we have much to celebrate about charities and volunteering. Our role in mobilising people, deploying time and talents, and building a sense of community. You in the room bring people together to organise them, to unite them against injustices and disadvantage, to help them make a bigger difference than they would on their own. And today, I and we want to celebrate that work that we do in bringing people together, to celebrate the difference that we make. And I want to celebrate too the fact that we collectively do offer something different, something distinctive, something valuable that in our society, our communities and our economy, that our world really requires in the months, years and decades ahead. So we have a great programme lined up for the day with very stimulating and sometimes very challenging speakers expressing very diverse views, and that's what we do here in the Wheel. We have the launch of our Spark Change Challenge later. We have our AGM. We have a drinks and networking reception from 5 until 7. And then we get to come back again tomorrow morning and do it all again. So for those of us who are joining tomorrow, that's the programme. So that is, I guess, sets us off for the day. Thank you for participating. Thank you again to Mancon. And over to the first formal session of the day. Thank you very much.